This is as groovy as it gets.
Oprah, Can You Hear Me? Oprah vs. Donald 2020 is a conversation by Julie Benetti and Susan Barbaro and a production of EI Alliance, copyright 2019. America is courtesy of New Threads off their new album, Felonious Wilma. Hi, this is Julie, and I am here with Susan, and we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here for an Oprah podcast. So we're talking about the wine barrel, that's for sure. But, there's not much going on in the news. It's pretty quiet. And so we started to think, because along the lines of some of the other podcasts we do an ancient text podcast that talks about some really cool books.
Yep.
Some from the 1950s, Lao Tzu.
They're really ancient.
Yeah, I know. Neville Goddard. We go way back we'll start the Yellow Emperor soon. And we do those podcasts, and we decided, because we're authors and we're also podcasters, that we decided to do
a brewery book talk.
Yes, and what that involves, and you might be saying, why is this in the Oprah podcast?
I'm saying it.
And
I thought we were going to talk about something else.
And we are, but what it involves is authors talking about their books, but with other authors. Because if, you've ever been interested in books and gone to signings and blah, 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 you kind of are sitting there and you're doing your signing and people come up and that's great and you love, the audience and the readers and everything. Yet then when you get a break, you start talking to another author and you never have enough time. So we talked about doing that. And the reason why I mentioned it, because we were talking about, breweries and things like that. And, I can't help, because I just go to this vision when you ever you see video clips, those quick video clips on Instagram or on Twitter, they always show Oprah opening tequila gifts, whether she's on the Daily Show or whatever, and she's, oh, look, there's some tequila. And, I'm not really sure, besides a margarita, if tequila would be my choice alcohol.
All I know is if we're going to go to an inauguration party, whose do you want to go to? Oprah? Having tequila and wine, or Trump who drinks Diet Coke. I think I would kind of have fun partying up with Oprah and her tequila.
So this is the real poll that you want to be asked. Never mind all those political questions. You really want somebody to ask you, when it comes to the inauguration party, which one would you want to go to? And then move backwards from there. That should be our next president.
That's exactly it. Instead of saying, where are the politics? What are their issues? What do they think? Who cares? Who's got the best party coming up?
And we're not talking about the energy of alcohol at all. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about all those kind of little, ice sculptures and side effect things and, marching bands.
Come on. Do you know the things that you can make with tequila?
Oh,
lots of cool things.
Lots of cool things. Yes, lots of interesting things. And, it's funny because I kind of, disappeared for a couple of milliseconds there because I thought, wow, imagine if Oprah were the president. I mean, imagine the musical groups that would line up to play at her inauguration party. She wouldn't have any problem getting anyone. And I know when President Trump had his inauguration, he had some issues trying to get different bands.
And, I just want to say one thing, because we're in alignment with you, Oprah, because we are going to do our own book talk. I know Julie just described it. I'm not off in another world here. But the fun part is because this came to me and I said, oh my God, let's get all the authors who have a book. You bring your book. And you talk about your book
with other authors,
and the other authors talk about their book. It's not about selling your book.
No,
it's not about getting signed copies. There's no no, oh my God, I got to make sure I do this, make sure I do that. Just come and have fun. Oprah started it with her book club,
right?
And we're going to take it to the next level,
right?
And so, Oprah, when you get in there and you're doing your thing, we're right there with you. And we're having some wine. You have your tequila. So we're ready to see this just go and move on. Because if you listen to was it our last podcast that we did, we got a feeling that Oprah might be doing something that she's kind of, I say, doing on her own terms.
Right.
Which, to her, I say cheers.
Yes, definitely. A big salute.
Big salute. So, if you're an author, you can get in touch with us. You have a book, energeticinvocations@gmail.com. If you enjoy the podcast, we got a lot more coming up, because I'm going to say it, she's going to throw her hat in very shortly.
She's going to throw her hat in the ring. And, you know, we talk about energy, and we get into the vibe of energy, and we've been looking at the political races and what President Trump, before he was President Trump, when he was Donald Trump and he was, you know, in there running, we looked at what he was possibly doing with energy.
Right.
And we found science to back it up. And we wrote a book about it. And that's not where I'm headed here, because I'm not, you know, practicing my book talk.
Yeah.
Because we're not at a brewery. But anyway, where I go with that is the energy of that is so much more interesting
I know.
than the political debates and stances and the career politicians and just the blah of all that conversation. The issues are important, but often it doesn't get to what the issues are.
So, you know, I think the issues are important if there's an important issue you are aligned with. Mm-hmm. Like the LGBT, if you're, that's something, and you're in a, you know, but even with that, if that's a concern, it's been addressed. I mean, I know people come out and they say, well, we're going to do this. What else is there to address? You know, and if you have an issue in terms of like getting married, and that's a state by state issue. It's not a presidential issue anymore. Right. It's kind of null and void.
Right.
And I mean, the guns, it's if the gun laws are going to be changed, it is not going to be a president going in and changing it, as Barack Obama has proven. He went in and tried to take down the NRA at the height of the worst of the school shootings. It didn't happen.
Right.
If that's going to happen, you're going to have to approach it from a different way. It's like, I don't know why this just came into my mind. When you're working with a horse, like you got to go, and I was just working. It's like you got to go to a horse if you want to, you know, put a halter on them. If you approach them from the front, they're going to back up. You got to kind of come from the side and like, okay, I'm going to work with you. And they're so much more amenable to it. Even that little thing. So if you're going to work, say, with the gun changing the gun laws, you got to work with the NRA. You got to figure out a way to work with them. And so the reason I mention these two things is not to get into the politics of it, but it's almost like the politics and the issues have no relevance at all to the presidency.
Well, the politics keeps moving every time. I mean, it doesn't move. It keeps the same thing, keeps coming up and coming up and coming up. And, you know, it's not that there's any resolution to anything.
So what becomes interesting then? If you take the issues out, what becomes interesting is the energy.
Right.
That's it. The energy. After that, there is nothing else. There is nothing that they are going to bring up. I mean, even immigration. I know Trump's doing certain things, but guess what? Immigration has always been a problem. And whether Trump is reelected or if someone else gets in, it's going to be racial issues. When Obama was in office is when we had all these racial issues, and it wasn't because of him. Even with a black president, we had racial issues. That is not going to, and people turn and they want to point the finger at Trump. And what gets me, when I get infuriated, it's because he's got nothing to do with it.
I know.
He has his own bias, but his bias is not going to change anything. Police brutality, I mean, I could go on and on and on. But what does make a difference is the energy.
Right.
And Oprah's energy is very different from Trump's energy.
Right. And, you know, it's interesting because they have both worked hard, I kind of put that word in air quotes, kind of to get where they are in their space of the concept of themselves. And so we just kind of came off of a couple of podcasts on Neville Goddard and the power of awareness, and he talks a lot about and gives some really great information about, you know, how when you kind of move into an understanding of what your concept of yourself is, you know, and changing that, you can change a lot.
You change anything.
You can change anything. And, you know, looking at, I mean, I'm still kind of going in my mind to the party, and I think that would be kind of funny because, you know, can you choose the candidate based on what kind of inaugural party they'd have?
Why not? I mean, it's not a situation who's going to party and get drunk. I mean, I sit there and talk about Oprah and tequila. It's not because Oprah's going to get drunk, because that's not. It's more about who can just have fun in the space that they're in.
Right.
And, you know, we haven't talked about this. And now that I've had some wine, maybe that's where it's going to come out. But, you know, Trump, as much as we talk about how he's really very sure of who he is, and we've done a lot of podcasts about his energy and how comfortable he is and powerful he is in his energy, yet there's a huge part of him that isn't comfortable, I'm going to say this, with other people.
Oh, huge, right?
And that Oprah is comfortable in the space of other people. And I think that is a superpower that she could bring and use. I won't say against him, but that's a superpower she has that he lacks.
Right.
I think he's got a lot of issues of being I don't want to say paranoia, because I'm not insinuating any mental disability in any way, shape, and form, but there's a little bit of paranoia when you're that powerful. And he uses it, but there's a part of him that he keeps people at a distance. Oprah doesn't do that.
Right.
Oprah can be in the space and be who she is, but yet open up to these to other people and be very confident in who she is to be in that space.
And you know what's interesting to that aligns with what you say is because I've seen, you know, news footage of him there with Melania and this was before he was elected, and you could see how uncomfortable he was in certain situations and, you know, gatherings, which other quote unquote career politicians are used to. Yet an interesting aspect that goes along with what you said is that, you know, he's a little bit tainted now because he has been the president. So whether you want to say it or not, he is political. So that's a political position, and he's caught in it. So he's got, you know, and I'm going to say it this way in a funny kind of self-help industry way, he's got baggage. He has political baggage.
Let me ask you, what do you think? Because we just did when we were trying to find, like, what do we want to say? What's interesting? What's going on out there? And it was interesting because one of the things that we found was that Oprah came off of 60 Minutes because she was uncomfortable with the way that they wanted her to portray herself. And it might lend to the idea that she's pretty confident in who she is.
Right.
And maybe, just maybe, the whole political carnage out there may not affect her the way that it's affected other people, other presidents. You know, and you talk about, you know, the swagger that, you know, every outgoing president has because they've done it. And you would wonder, stepping in, we thought Trump had that stepping into it because of his experience. Well, wouldn't that be a fascinating concept if Oprah could do that, stepping into it as, I'm going to say, a black woman, and she could walk in with that. Who knows how to deal with that? No one knows how to deal with that. I'm gonna say a white male. People know how to deal with it. We've seen it, right? I'm not. Right. We've seen it.
Right.
And we see Oprah in a very, you know, the word that comes to mind, and forgive me, it's like sensual way, and I don't mean that in a sexual thing. I mean in a woman, from a woman's standpoint. A woman is emotional, and I don't mean emotional where. I mean we're sensitive, and we pick up things, and we feel things, and that's what I mean by sensual. You feel things, you sense things, And people don't know how to deal with that.
Right.
But she's not the where, I'm a woman, I'm crying.
Right.
She can be that, but there's also a power behind that.
So it's interesting because I went to so many different spaces of energy through all of what you said. I wish I could play it back because I didn't stay in any one. I just kept on moving. And there's a brilliance to the aspect of realizing, and for all of us to realize that because we don't see anything occurring, that doesn't mean that nothing is occurring. Right. Okay? Oprah, I'm going to say it, and this isn't because, I'm Alex Trebek or, whatever. Oprah is brilliant. There's an energy, there's an aspect, there's a volatility, there's something to that. And yes, okay, I'm a woman. She's a woman.
And that's why we're women this time.
Yes.
We talked about that.
Yes.
There's a set, and I'm sorry, and again, I'm going to say it again. This is the word that came, and it's not a sexual, sensual. Mm-hmm. And there's a power to that.
And sensual.
And people don't know how to deal with that yet. Well, sensual yet powerful.
Right. And sensual leads to feelings and emotions. And there's a powerful, attribute. And there's a powerful, lingering aspect that you can utilize all those things.
Yes.
And, Oprah is a very powerful woman. And again, because we haven't seen a statement, I mean, these aren't things that the individual person is asking for. Do I care if Oprah throws her hat in the ring yesterday, tomorrow, or a week from now? No, I don't.
You know why? Because in November of 2020, someone is going to be elected president.
Right.
She could throw her hat in October.
Right.
And be elected. It doesn't matter when she comes in.
Exactly. And that understanding, I mean, we all have to understand, and I mean us as in us, we all have to understand that because we don't see something and we're not aware of something and it's not broadcast on the news, quote unquote, and we realize that it's not shown in some soundbite, we're not getting all the information. And you have to understand by a person's actions and by what they're doing. We see Donald Trump out there powerfully stumping. He's out there still rallying. It's a space he likes to be in. He's out there getting the energy of everyone. Yep, 2020, Trump 2020. Oprah doesn't need to do that. No. Why should she? Again, I'll go to my, my campaign here promises. She's Oprah.
Right.
She's Oprah. Why should she? She doesn't have to defend anything. So what? And she doesn't have to proclaim anything. She can just step in. And, that's not me saying, okay, you're responsible now to step in and fix the U.S. and do it. I'm not saying anything.
There's nothing to fix. Actually, there's nothing to fix. Right. And people listening to this can judge it all they want. The truth of the matter is, as we talked about in Neville Goddard, we just finished the podcast, there's nothing to do but fix yourself. That's all there is to do. That's all we can affect.
And in actuality, the fixing is ascertaining your awareness of the concept of yourself and where you want to really propel it, is if that's what you like or not. And who are we to say? Because we haven't said that. Well, we don't know what Oprah is doing, what her concept of herself is. And, it's funny because we've all been invited to parties, and we're not really sure if we want to go. And not to, make it so we don't get invited, but we're all, we've been invited. I mean, come on, everybody out there has been invited. You're like, I'll respond. I can email them. I'll let them know. And, of course, you have compassion for their needs to, schedule and whatever food and blah, blah, blah they have to do for the party. Yet, we've been there where we can determine the time we want to do it. Again, if you get into the time factor and Oprah's brilliance, just in, she's shown us in her business models and what she has done. Has everything she's done, I don't know everything she's done. I don't follow her, history and her background and all that stuff. But I think it's very fascinating because she is that powerful force. And again, yes, she is a woman. She is that powerful force that can go toe-to-toe beyond Donald Trump.
So the one thing that I think, to me, is the culmination of this whole podcast is really, she represents it. I can't stress it enough. A black woman She's not married. I know she's in a relationship. She's not married. And she has done amazing things. And the way I look at that, and I go back to where this origination of this podcast came, and you know, I joked with you. I said, I hope you're okay with this, because I'm going to say it. Me too, boo-hoo. Because I couldn't, and this is Susan speaking, to be clear.
I agree.
That the whole Me Too movement was, to me, so unempowering, disinspiring. It was just, there was nothing to it that I resonated with in any way, shape, and form. A black woman, and the reason I keep saying a black woman, because back in the hierarchy of power, you know, you had the white male, white woman, black woman. And they were, quote, at the bottom. And here is this black woman that stepped up, and I'm not trying to put any onus on her to do anything, whether she runs or not. And this is what I'm getting from this podcast. Whether she runs or not, I wish her well,
right?
Because from that, I can look and I say, I am a woman. I am sensual. And again, this is not a sexual issue. Right. I am sensual, and I am very sensitive. And most women, because I can never say 100%, are just like that. And it is time to step into that space, because we even said this is not about Oprah versus Donald. This isn't about politics. This is about us, which was funny, the U.S. verse, but it's also us. It's about us stepping up as women and being a woman. I don't want to be a guy. I love men. Don't get me wrong. They're wonderful. I have no ill will. I have nothing negative to say, but I need to step into being the woman that I am, that I came here to be, as do you, as does everyone else. And I think that's part of our passion behind Oprah stepping up. And we need to step up and be a woman and be powerful.
And you know, it's hugely relative to those last couple of words you said, be powerful, because this isn't a man versus woman thing. This isn't a woman versus man thing. This isn't a gender, non-gender, color, non-color. It's none of that. It's all of us stepping into all of us and being our powerful selves.
Thank you for listening to this production from EI Alliance. Check out our Amazon authors pages for books and podcasts, along with our Donald Trump and Oprah books for this series. Find great music by New Threads on iTunes, Spotify, and on newthreads.us.